Okay.
This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, here we are on June the 29th, 2023. Oh, we're almost halfway done the year, folks. And the guest I have on today, when she's not accidentally losing her chocolate bars in a swimming pool, she's out kicking ass as a paintballer, and sometimes she's just a trooper on Beverly Hills because she's a blast from the past. Folks, I give you the lovely Ann Ryerson. How do you do, Ann?
Good morning to you. I love your name, Python. Wow.
I love snakes, so that's my DJ name is Python,
I
Although,
figured your parents probably didn't choose that.
yeah, but here's my buddy.
Oh,
I don't own a snake. I own a kitty.
yeah, that's a pretty kitty. Very pretty
You hear
kitty.
that? You hear that, Skittles?
My husband and I had three cats and
Yeah.
yeah, rescued and then we ended up having to put them down at age 16 and a half, 18 and a half, and 20. They live long, good lives.
I put
Yeah.
my cat down every day, especially when he pukes in the kitchen. He's my buddy.
That's funny.
Skittles says, you're using me for hits. You're exploiting me.
Yeah,
I'm so
exactly.
embarrassed. Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
Skittles doesn't look embarrassed.
He's my buddy. Yeah, he's
Mhm.
over rubbing against my finger now. Forgets it
Uh-oh.
already. Yep. But no, Anne, it's wonderful having you come on here today and talk to me. And you were telling me before, because I know I can't see you on here. You're in your pajamas. You haven't fully gotten up yet.
Well, because I thought this was only an audio interview, and so I normally would have I have to admit I would have curled my hair, put on a little makeup, and
Yeah, but
just
are your pajamas like your camouflage outfit and your goggles from Jason Lives? Is that your pajamas?
oh boy. Well, don't you think that that COVID like changed all of our at-home uniforms? I mean, I just really love to be in my pajamas. So I will
It is
change
fun.
out of them when I have to go out of the house, but otherwise I'm going to leave them on.
There you go. There you go. I don't
Mhm.
blame you. Don't blame you. Well, before we get into some of your films, I want to get into your background and how you got into the business.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am from Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's where
Mm-hmm.
I grew up. And I have performed in a certain way since I was 5 years old when I did belly dances for the relatives to earn pennies to buy a present for the new baby coming to my mother. And I was really pretty much always a performer, even though I'm very shy. So that's a strange dichotomy. By the time I was in high school, I was in plays. I played the Jewish mother in Bye Bye Birdie. And by the way, I'm 5 foot 11 and a half, and I'm very waspy looking. But my high school did not have many Jewish people in it. So the choir director said, can you do a Jewish accent? And I said, I don't know. What is it? And he did it for me. I said, oh, that's a martyr. Oh, I can do that. My mother is a martyr. I know how to do that. So I mean, I started in high school and in college. I'm a journalism major, but I did take beginning acting, and it was a course that changed my life. And then I went on to become a professional actress. The reason I say that it changed my life is for a good period of time, a month, maybe 2 months, 3 months, we kept a sensory diary, of what you saw, tasted, smelled, um, heard, and looking at the world that way literally changed me. And certainly as an actor, we have to use all of our senses all the time. sense of smell is one of the strongest ones actors use to recreate feelings and sensations, because smell really can zap us right into a place or a time or past. I could go on, but I'll let you ask me a question
Well, I was gonna say,
about what you want to hear.
since the smell was not helping you on the paintball field, I'll tell
I
you that,
know.
because Roy kept getting away. I got the box set for Friday the 13th,
Oh, okay. All
a
right.
big box set, and Jason lives here. I got 2 signatures on it, which is funny. I got CJ Graham, who I haven't had on the show yet,
Uh-huh.
but I
Uh-huh.
met him, and says 18 kills. Jason 6, 18 kills. And then I got Tom Matthews, who's been on here 3 times.
Oh, goodness.
Tom Matthews, Tommy, 1 kill. And I
Uh-huh.
said to him when I met him at Frightmare in the Falls and Horrorama, I met him
Uh-huh.
twice, and I said to him, I said, didn't Jennifer Cook technically kill him? And he goes, well, yeah, but I got her there, and I was like, yeah, but who killed Jason?
Yeah, you can't take credit for a kill that you didn't make. Come on. Well, in that movie, we're skipping way ahead now because
Mhm.
I was brought in to read for it, and my agent said, I don't know if you'd be interested in this or not. And
Go
I
ahead.
have to be honest, I didn't know anything about the Jason Lives series.
Mhm.
And I said, well, just somehow I got right to the audition. I was at the audition, and that's when I first saw the script while I was at the audition. And I said, oh, I have to die. How do I die? Because I said, I don't do slow deaths on camera. Isn't that funny? I really don't. And they said, oh, it's a triple beheading. And I went, oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So fast and quick and over. And then, so I auditioned for the role, and then I got it, and that was fine. And then I found out it was being shot in Atlanta, and I live in Los Angeles, and I had 2 very young children. So I was like, oh gosh, all right, well, okay. Then I found out I had to make a full body cast. They had to completely duplicate all of us, bodies and heads, because for the beheading, they had to really chop it off, and they couldn't chop off our real head, so they had body duplicates. And we had to go into a studio, which had no air conditioning, thank you very much, in the summer here in LA. And we had to they put us in plaster from our neck down. And I have to admit, I fainted. It was hot in there, I'm telling you.
Mhm.
And I was completely encased in plaster. And when I woke up, from fainting, here I am. I'm like my arms out, and I'm completely in a plaster cast. I just didn't even know where I was. But then they had to do our heads, and to do your head, they stick like a straw up your nose, 2 straws up your nose, and they start covering everything. Your ears first, and then your eyes, and that was 31 minutes it took just to make the head mold. Yeah. So it was a big deal making that movie.
Mhm.
Tom McLaughlin was the director,
Yep.
and he knew somewhat of my work, I guess probably from Chicago. And he's an extremely nice man, very good man. He cast myself and the 2 other guys I was paintballing with. I mean, the 3 guys: Whitney Ryback, Matthew Faison, and Alan Blumenfeld. He cast us to be the first parts of the movie shot, because we were all professionals with a lot of experience.
Mhm.
And I think it might have been Tom's first movie directing. Forgive me, Tom, if I'm wrong, but I think it might have been. And he wanted to work with people who really knew what they were doing, so that he would be not only on schedule, but maybe even ahead of schedule. So that when he got into more dicey areas with actors who were not as experienced, that he would already have some scenes under his belt. And so that's how it went.
I've interviewed you're, I think, my 8th person from this movie I've interviewed.
Mhm, mhm,
Tom McLaughlin's been on here a couple times.
mhm.
Nancy McLaughlin, I'm good friends with. She's been on here 4 or 5 times. Tom Matthews has been on here a couple times. I've had Carrie Noonan on here. And I had some of your paintballer buddies. Alan Blumenfeld has been on
Oh, okay.
here, and so has Whitney Ryback.
Uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
yep. And am I
Matthew
forgetting?
Faison is the third one. Mhm,
Yeah, I haven't had him on.
mhm.
So
Well, I want to tell you,
oh,
we have,
Roger Rose. Roger Rose I
oh,
had on. Yep,
uh-huh. Well,
yep.
they were part of the later part of the movie because well, the movie, yeah, we're kind of at the top of the movie, let's put it that way, even
Mhm.
though we weren't certainly the first scene of the movie, but we were close to the top of the movie. And we all got there, in fact, a day early, maybe 2 days early, because again, Tom really wanted to be prepared on this movie for the beginning, the shooting. And so the three of us rented a car and followed Sherman's March to the Sea from Atlanta, which was an so we made it such a fun time, and those three gentlemen were so fun. And Tom was such a good director that for me it was just a fantastic experience. And I don't get as much fan mail for anything else that I've done in my career as Friday the 13th Part 6.
Well, what I really liked about Tom McLaughlin with this movie is that he didn't want to make a straight slasher film.
Mm-hmm,
He wanted to do 2 things. A, he wanted to do an homage to the old monster movies, which he did brilliantly in that opening, and,
mm-hmm,
he also wanted to incorporate comedy, and I
mm-hmm,
I think
mm-hmm.
he did that so well without making fun of the source material, and that paintballer scene, I think, is one of the funniest scenes.
Oh,
I
good. I'm
love
so glad.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Oh,
I have Whitney ride back on here, and I know he's got experience with Tom as being a mime, and I think one of the funniest things in the movie is where he accidentally knocks that branch off the tree, and he tries to put the branch back on.
that's funny. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Those all three of the gentlemen that I worked with. Yeah, they're experienced actors and they're funny. Yep. Yep.
yep.
Yep.
And
I
then
love
let's not
all. I love
and let's not forget the chauvinist.
them.
After all, you did well, with the exception of Roy. I don't know, was the only one you didn't get. But, you got everybody. I guess there's the one guy, well, I forget who played Bert right off the top of my head, but I just thought was hilarious, he was going on this big tangent rant there with this
Oh
machete, and then when he gets arm grabbed and swung into the tree, there's like a bloody happy face on the tree, and like
my God.
anything other like the angriest guy in the movie has a face on the
Oh,
tree.
that's so funny. That is funny. Yeah. Well, that's Tom McLaughlin. He did it all. I mean, I have to say, he's just a delight. He is a delight, and everybody should be so lucky as to work with somebody like Tom because not all directors are like that on television or movies or in you know in stage either. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's unique.
So, have you played paintball since?
My son was a big paintballer, and I used to take he and his teenage friends there's good paintball fields north of Los Angeles, kind of
Yeah.
in the wide open spaces of the valley. I am not a big paintballer myself, but my son was really loved it. So I certainly knew he was only 2 when I made the movie. So and obviously he was more like 12 or 13 when he really got into paintballing.
So he didn't look at you as a paintball champion?
He should have. I think he and his friends really loved the fact that I was in the movie Caddyshack.
Mhm.
That was a big one for them because when he got to college, they were some of the guys on his floor in his dorm found out that I had a part in Caddyshack, and they were jumping up and down in their beds and screaming and pulling their hair, going, "Your mom is in Caddyshack! No way! No way!" They're just freaking out. So I think probably that movie amongst his friends is the most popular. They know every line from it.
Oh, we're going to get to Caddyshack. Trust
Oh,
me.
okay. All right.
I
All
got
right.
that Blu-ray sitting here too.
All right. All right.
But as I said, I'm good friends with Nancy
Yeah.
McLaughlin, and she and I talk. We'd never actually personally met, but she and I talk usually about once a week or once every other week because we're both part of the Christian faith,
Mhm.
and so we've just kind of remained in touch. And
Mm.
she sent this to me. I'm going to show you something she sent me. And I got the second one. I don't know how many she had made, but
Oh my God. Oh, wow. How nice of her to do that. For those people who are only listening, he's holding up the mask of Jason.
yeah, it's a
On
little
a,
medallion. Yeah.
yeah, a pretty big medallion, actually. Nice.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
yeah, Nancy and I have stayed in touch, and she even did a charity challenge I threw out for suicide and depression called the
Mm,
Doubtfire Face
mm,
Challenge, where
mm.
you take a pie in the face and you
Oh.
nominate three people. And she actually took a cake in the face because that's what Robin Williams did. But
Uh,
yeah, but she did that. And she threw the nominations out to people from Jason Lives, and I don't think any of them bit, but nonetheless, she did it, and it was fun. She still got that gorgeous red hair.
uh-huh. Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
she's a special person too, and you're how wonderful to have her in your life. That's great. Yeah. I
Oh
by the
yeah.
way, I am still friends with Alan Blumenfeld, and I certainly was with Whitney also. I think Whitney has moved out of the city, but I could be wrong. But I used to certainly cross paths with them. In the days when we had auditions, actors, the way we audition has changed. We
Hmm.
used to be called into a casting director's office, and you would go in, and people would be in a waiting room, men and women for various parts, and you'd get to see your fellow actors quite often, and you got to know them. And you really, even if you weren't in a movie with them, you saw them in the waiting room. Nowadays, the last 5 years, it has shifted to actors have to self-tape. We have to do our own auditions in the privacy of our own home or in somebody's studio. So we don't see actors at auditions like we used to. But I used to cross paths with those guys really well, and also Ellen Blumenfeld does live theater, and I go to live theater, so I see him there. But unfortunately for us actors, we don't get to fraternize like we used to.
Well, Al and I had on here, and one thing I talked to him about Worth Winning, which I think is an extremely underrated romantic comedy he was in, and also talked about Jason Lives, and like I said, I think that paintball scene's hilarious.
Oh,
Every time I watch that scene, I think it's great, and it doesn't take away from the movie at all. I think
mhm,
Tom balanced that
mhm,
beautifully, you
mhm.
know?
I think that was
Yeah,
his intention. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, to
And
have a different.
I think he
Mhm.
wants to do another one too, an all-female one, and
Mhm.
set in the snow. And I hope he gets to because I love the tone he brought to Jason Lives.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
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 Speaking of which,
How many Jason Lives movies are there? I know I can ask you that. You'll tell me.
oh, there's 12.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Jason Lives to me is for me one of the top two best. I wouldn't say
Mhm.
it's the scariest. I think the fourth one's the scariest, but I
Mhm.
think Jason Lives to me might be the best written
Mhm.
because I love the how he wrote the characters in it, like the grave digger was
Uh-huh,
hilarious,
uh-huh,
breaking the
yeah.
fourth wall,
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
Um,
uh-huh.
now CJ Graham, of course, played Jason, but I understand somebody else was playing Jason uh at the time. Do you remember anything about that?
You know,
Geor-
the reason I don't, and please forgive me, but
Mm-hmm.
he was always wearing a mask when we saw him. So I heard, and we didn't interact with Jason much. If you think about it, he jumps out of a tree or, right out of the bushes or whatever. But we didn't really, as actors, sometimes if somebody's playing our adversary, we don't hang around with them a lot because you want to have that natural quality that he's the adversary. So I really didn't, I have to be honest, I didn't know him very well. I mainly knew the guys I was playing paintball with and our director.
Well, of course you didn't get to know him much. You guys were looking for Whitney.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God.
Oh boy, I love that. Did you get to meet any of the other actors from the
You know,
movie
we
or
didn't. We didn't
no? I didn't
because
think
we were
so.
the very first scenes.
Yeah.
When we finished, we were on the plane going back to LA.
Hmm.
Yeah, we didn't hang around. In generally, in general, in movies, you don't because
Hmm.
the company is paying for your time at a hotel and your per
Hmm.
diem and all that sort of thing. So when you are done shooting, you are released and you're off the payroll, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so we didn't. Their scene was a completely different setup, completely different. It was shot outside of Atlanta, Georgia, like I said, on the
Hmm.
outskirts. But no, we didn't get to meet them. So I wish I could tell you I did, but I didn't.
You must have met Nancy though, right?
I actually did not.
No, okay.
No,
Yeah,
no.
well, you know she's in the movie. She's the one that's in the car and the
Right,
spear
right.
goes through and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
spear in the mouth. Yeah.
Ah,
I love Nancy.
okay.
Love Nancy. I
Oh.
actually got to see Jason Lives in Toronto in 2019. They were doing a midnight screening of it. It was at the Deja Theater called the Drunken Cinema, and they had it was I always said Jason Lives is the most eventful of the franchise because
Mm,
it had a very Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of environment. I don't
mm,
drink, but
mhm,
they gave you these cards before you can went in, and
mhm.
every time whatever happens on the card happens, you take a shot. Now,
Oh,
of
what a
course,
riot. Oh,
mine said any scenes with rain or fog. And I'm like, good thing I'm not an alcoholic. Could you imagine how plastered I would be?
Oh, I didn't know they did those sorts of things. That's funny. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
but that I saw Jason Lives in Toronto
Oh,
and midnight screening, and the band Blood Opera, who were kind of christened by George Romero. They uh, opened the show playing the Alice Cooper song and
mm,
stuff
mm,
because they get all done up in these ghoulish costumes.
mhm,
Great
mhm,
guys,
mhm.
and yeah, I had a great time seeing that in the big screen. Seeing about half the franchise on the big screen, and Jason Lives. I had a lot of fun seeing that
Yeah,
in the
I bet. I
theater.
bet it would be fun to see it in a big crowd like that, where people are loose and just
Did
enjoying the heck out of it.
Did you go to the premiere of it?
I did. It was here in Los Angeles. We actually
Mm-hmm.
got to go to a cast and crew screening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's what they do. So, no, sorry, I didn't go to the premiere. I apologize. No, they always have a cast and crew screening for everybody who has worked on the movie. And we get to go to those, and I love those because then you really, you're working with the crew more than you are, for example, with the fellow actors who come later in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the crew that you're with. So, yeah, I went here in Los Angeles. It was many, many, many moons ago, almost 40 years ago.
I would
Right?
have been 14 when Jason Lives hit the theater, so I didn't see it in 1986, but I did see it in 2009. Well, I seen it long before that on video, but I got to see it on the big screen in 1980 or in 2019, which
Mhm.
I so enjoyed seeing something in a theater is a lot different than seeing it
Mhm.
home alone.
Yep,
You
I
really get
agree.
yeah. What
Yeah.
do your kids think of your death scene in the movie?
You know what? They they don't talk about it much, I have to be honest. And
Hmm.
it's my this sounds kind of weird, but my children are not very interested in talking about my career.
No.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, it's the truth. Because I started out, I mean, really, I mean, besides the fact that I just said I did things in high school and in college, I became a photo model right out of college, and I modeled in Italy.
Hmm.
And I have some a pretty interesting stack of photos from when I was a photo model. Nah, they're not even interested in that. And then I was an improvisational actor in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in Dudley Riggs' Brave New Workshop, which I opened 3 shows there. I was there for 9 months, and then I went to the Second City where I was for 2.5 years. And I'm still very good friends with my Second City fellow actors. So maybe my children are a little bit more aware of Second City, because when we've gone back to Chicago, we've gone to Second City, but they don't ask me many questions about my career, and they don't seem terribly interested.
So
There you
they don't.
go. Yeah, I need some good nieces and nephews who are interested in my career.
Well, I love this movie a lot.
Hmm.
Caddyshack.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's pretty
And
darn fun.
look what else I have.
What? Oh, whoops, I can't, oh, the gopher.
I got the dancing gopher.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
And
I got.
you know that that was added right at the end of after the movie was shot. And that one of the writers, Doug Kenny, was just, oh, he just did not like that at all. He thought it made it very cartoony, and he felt very depressed about it, like he'd failed the movie.
I feel
Um,
bad about Doug Kenny because, of course, he
oh,
was Stork in Animal House, and I
I
don't think
loved
he,
him.
yeah, I don't think he got to see what Caddyshack would become.
He absolutely did not. And he
Mhm.
really, I think, initially, I think he felt that he had failed in his job as a producer. Um, and yeah, so and I really, really loved him. So that was a hard one for me when he died.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I've interviewed Cindy Morgan from
Mhm,
Caddyshack.
mhm, mhm.
Lacy Underall.
Yes.
Yeah,
Great name, by the way, right?
yeah. Oh, I love her. And of course, you say your kids love Caddyshack. Now, do they go
Mhm.
to you for chocolate bars now?
Well, my sister's name was Ruth, and we used to tease my sister about baby Ruths. They
Hmm.
go, yeah, yeah, because we go, this is my baby. Well, anyway, we would play around with it, that it was ours instead of hers. But yeah, that's, you got to admit, that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen, where the baby Ruth candy bar goes into the pool, and then Bill Murray picks it up and sniffs it and eats it. I mean, come on. Come on, that is a damn good laugh, you got to admit.
Here it is. No big deal.
Yeah,
He takes a
yeah,
bite out of
yeah.
it. The
And
judge's
then
wife faints.
yeah, and she goes, oh, and falls on the ground. She killed me, that woman. Oh my God. That movie was so funny. That was funny.
Oh, I heard that John Peters is
Mhm.
trying to, because I apparently Caddyshack, there was so much stuff cut that that movie could have been 3 or 4 hours long.
Really?
Yeah, and I
Oh,
think I heard a rumor that he's trying to, and maybe it was Cindy Morgan who I got on Facebook,
oh,
but
oh,
was saying that that John Peters, I think, is trying to get the extended cutout,
oh,
and
you're
I'm like,
kidding.
I'd love to
Wow.
see it.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's very interesting. Well, Harold Ramis, who directed that movie, and again, that was his first movie
Yep.
directing. And he was kind of, in a certain way, given that as a gift for the fact that he and Doug Kinney and Chris Miller wrote Animal House,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I can vaguely remember, oh boy, I hate to be so specific, but I seem to remember that they got $10,000 for it, the three of them. Yeah, right. You should spit out your coffee at that amount of money because it's so little. I mean, it's so little. That's crazy. And so part of but it was such a wild success that they kind of, as part of a thank you to him, he got to direct his next movie. And they let him choose also which movie he wanted to do next. Though my friend was working um, at the studio at the time and said they considered some other movies too that Harold had written, but they were conflicted about them, the other ones. And my friend said, well, what about that golf movie he wrote? And so, Harold did get to direct that. And he's the one who cast me. So there you go. I've been friends with him since we were in Second City together.
Yeah, I like Harold Ramis. Rest in
Mhm.
peace.
Yeah.
It was nice to see the image of him appear in the Ghostbusters Afterlife, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yep, yep. I guess the estate allowed that, and
Uh,
but but yeah, Caddyshack, like there was a big documentary on this about the
mhm,
making of, and I guess it was
mhm.
pretty wild on set for that
Yeah,
movie.
I'm in that documentary, so I know about yeah, yeah. It was
Oh,
wild. I have to tell you, it was wild. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, a decent amount of partying, let's just put it that way. But I
hmm.
have to say, at least from my viewpoint, the partying did not take place during the day. People were straight and sober, as far as I could see, during the day, and they were very businesslike and workmanship like. They were not partying during the day. They just partied at night. Mhm.
I heard that, and I know Lacey,
Yep.
Cindy Morgan had said that Ted Knight had a really difficult time dealing with the shenanigans on set because,
Mhm.
uh, he came from a very different background in
Mhm.
this,
Mhm.
and I guess he was not involved with the partying and had difficulty dealing with Rodney Dangerfield's ad living and this and that. Do you remember Ted Knight dealing with this on set, or were
Well,
you around
well,
him
what
much?
what I think, first of all, remember I was saying earlier, just like I didn't know Jason that well, and Jason
Hmm.
Lives. Ted Knight and Rodney Dangerfield were supposed to be up against each other. So in a certain way, that probably natural stylistic difference worked for them. One of the things that's pretty interesting is when you look at Caddyshack, how good Ted Knight looks in it. I mean, he is really good in it. Of course, Rodney is just absolutely hilarious. And Rodney did like to party at night. Ted was a health food nut and ate really well. And of course, Rodney would sometimes add lines or do things, but I think what's amazing is how great Ted looks in the movie.
Yep.
Oh, it
Actually,
didn't. Mhm.
the issue I heard was Ted Knight was one of these ones who would go by the script, and
Mhm. Mhm.
when and this was Rodney's first movie, so you can't fault him a whole lot here.
Mhm. Mhm.
But when somebody's going away from script, I could see where
Mhm.
that would throw somebody off. But yeah, Ted Knight was very old school in that matter.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was. And well, I think anybody who, if you're playing this straight man, you have to wait for the other guy to finish his shenanigans before you can deliver your next line. So, but again, the credit the editor and the
Mhm.
director and everybody else, I think they all just look fantastic in the movie. I mean, really, you can't hardly fault anybody in that movie. That's a well-made movie.
And how many times in Family Guy is Ted Knight as Judge Smales referenced in that, you
Oh,
know?
really? Is he?
Oh, yeah, they do the lamp shoving thing in Family Guy.
Really?
They
Oh
do
my
yo,
god.
yeah, they did
Oh.
the whole thing, "I want a cheeseburger, no, a hamburger. I want a hot dog, and you'll get nothing and like it," you know? That was done in Family Guy. Then there was the Star Wars parody of Family Guy where they were doing something back and forth, and then they have a shot of Ted Knight going, "Well, we're waiting." So I think they were big Ted Knight fans, and I don't blame them, you know, especially that cool hair he had, that white
Oh,
hair he
yeah.
had.
Yeah. Well, he was a handsome man. He really
Yep.
was. Of course, I also really enjoyed spending time with Henry Wilcoxon, who played the priest in that. Remember the
Oh,
priest was in
wow,
yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
He was
And
from the
Henry,
silent era.
yes, exactly. So I really loved sitting with him and chatting about his old time stories and everything. He was a pleasure to be with on the set. And of course, I loved Doug Kenny, and I knew, I must have known Doug. You know, those of us who are from the world of improv kind of know each other almost like a fraternity and sorority.
Mhm.
We know of each other, even if I mean, and Doug, I don't know, somehow I knew Doug. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, that movie was just a joy to make, and because it was so much partying. I even brought my mother down, and she joined the partying in the night, and she was like, she got so wild. At one point I had to calm her down. She said, "Are you ashamed of me?" And I said, "No, Mom, but just, don't sing so loud." But it was just really a lot of good times. A lot of good times. I don't regret a moment of it.
Yeah, and of course, you know, Chevy Chase playing Ty Webb, "Be the Ball."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course I have the original script still in my house.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking how much of that must have been improvised. And I went back and read my script, and it was not. It was not.
Oh.
That was in the so many things were in the script that you wouldn't think were in the script. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, those guys, you have to give the writers credit. They were smart guys, um but Chevy added, all sorts of things like the sound and the jumping backwards. Yeah, oh, yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, when he's at the piano with, Cindy Morgan,
Mhm.
Cindy said you could see in her eyes where the Harold Ramis is shooting footage and she didn't know he was, so she
Uh-huh.
kind of had to just go on impulse there and go
Mhm.
along with it, you know?
Wow. Wow.
Yep. And, of course, Bill Murray, I heard, was just brought in for, a week or something, and, of course, going after that gopher. You have any stories, on set with, any of those 4 comedians?
Well, Bill had just come from shooting Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, playing Hunter Thompson. So he was still in that frame of mind. He was really in a wacky, kind of far out way of thinking when he came onto Caddyshack. And again, his riffs, which seem like when he's shooting the chrysanthemums, when he's hitting them with his golf club, you think that he's riffing that is in the script. And he hits it out of the ballpark, and he's doing all that. I was in the Second City with Bill Murray on stage, so I knew Bill from you know, a while ago. Bill is a ladies' man. He loves ladies, and he's quite the charmer. And and you got to admit, he's just funny as hell. The character is so exaggerated that you look at it, you go, "Oh my God, how could he even get away with that?" It seems almost like he's making fun of somebody with a speech impediment, right? Because talking like, but he's apparently the caddy. There was a guy at the golf club where the Murray brothers used to caddy who spoke
Hmm.
just like that. So Bill literally just channeled this character. Um, yeah, other than that, Bill tends to keep to himself a bit when he's not shooting because he's not as big a partier as the other people. Not that he's not a party boy, but he tends to, hole up and kind of gather himself for the next scene. I mean, he is a wonderful actor.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
yeah. Um, Chevy partied a little bit more than Billy did. Yeah. And who were the other two that you consider the
Rodney
main?
Dangerfield and Ted
Oh well,
Knight.
Rodney, he's fun, and yeah, talking like this, all the time in the 90s. Yeah. He definitely partook in some stuff that made him speak even faster, and yeah, he was he he's a much cooler guy than he looks on the screen. He looks like kind of like a nervous wreck on the screen. But he's
Hmm.
actually kind of handsome and kind of a little bit suave when you see him in person.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
the guy from Sha-na-na, Scott, you some of the minor players that you probably wouldn't know as well, but he was from Sha-na-na. Scott, I can't think of Scott's last name right now. Do
Columbi?
you? What? Oh no,
Columbi?
Scott Columbia. Yeah, I love Scott Columbia too. Yeah, and Peter Berkrot, of course,
Yep.
and
And Mike,
Hamilton. Hamilton.
yep, and Michael O'Keefe, and
Oh,
of course I gotta bring up Sarah Holcomb as well, who of
mhm.
course was in Animal House. Um, yeah, I heard that I won't get into it. She had some medical issues and whatnot, and but I always liked her in this that little
Oh, she's
accent.
beautiful in it. Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
she became mentally unstable for a while, and I don't know how that all turned out. Sometimes
Hmm.
people just get off their center. I think in acting, we as actors have a rough time sometimes getting pulled off of our center because you're asked to do things and behave in a way that really are not in really within your normal repertoire. And if you're pulled too far off of your center, it can unmoor you. I know I was personally careful about what I played in my, I'm going to say until I was about 40, because I felt I was very suggestible. I am somebody who, you hypnotize a guy across the room, it's probably me who's going to get hypnotized. I'm extremely suggestible, and I knew I was, and I had to guard against it. And of course, if drugs are involved in any way, be it cocaine, marijuana, that was about all that was used in those days, is cocaine and marijuana. But I think people can, again, if you're in an isolated situation and there are drugs being used, it can pull you off of your center.
Hmm.
It's one of the hazards we all have as actors.
Do you have any stories about the other caddies? Any funny stories of
Oh,
being on
yeah.
set with them?
Well, you know, Hamilton, for some reason, I can't remember his last name right now.
Well, you went by Motormouth, I think.
Yeah, he was so adorable. Well, and those guys really were so enjoying the heck out of shooting this movie. I do remember one night they went and stole the golf carts and went around on the golf course and were doing wheelies and everything, and pretty badly tore up the golf course. But yeah, they were just absolutely fun to hang around with. I mean, yeah. Now, Scott Columbia is a little bit more serious of a person. He's a musician and quite a talented person. I see Scott, and his father was an agent and everything. Hamilton is kind of a born slapstick comedian, and Peter Berkrot makes his living really as a voiceover actor doing voices for books, reading audiobooks. He's
I
one of the
gotta get
best.
some yeah, I gotta get some of these people. I had you today and I've had Cindy Morgan. I wanna get more people from Caddyshack on the show,
Mhm.
you know, but,
I'm
and
sure
I know
Peter Burkrot would do it. And
oh,
he's the one who had the
I
pitchfork.
know, I
Oh my
know.
God. And he said Billy was really pressing that pitchfork into his throat. And Bill Murray's kind of a wild guy, and you don't know what the hell he's going to do. And Peter, you can just see Peter
Oh,
sweating.
yeah, oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I like that Brian Doyle Murray. Pick up that blood.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, Brian, he incredible in that movie or what?
Yeah,
I mean, I know all those guys because Brian was in Second City,
mhm.
Bill was in Second City. I knew the whole Murray family. I knew
Oh,
their
John Murray, I guess, was on set too, I guess.
Sure, John
Yep,
Murray was on set, and then Ed, the oldest brother, he was well, I think almost all the Murray brothers visited.
yep.
Lucille was their mom, and I don't believe, oh, I could be wrong. I don't think she was still alive then. But also I knew Bill's sisters. He had two sisters. One was a nun, and yeah, because when you're in Second City, the whole family comes down to see the show, right? At various times, you get to know everybody's backstory. Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, but
Y
man, Brian Doyle Murray's good in that movie in Caddyshack. Yeah.
yeah. Any, antidotes about the, swimming? Because that was really your big scene in that
Oh,
is the chocolate bar scene where they make a play on Jaws
yeah,
and Spaulding, of course, "Duty!"
yeah. Oh, I mean, that whole scene, like I said, I think is one of the funniest. Really, we were just, if you see us, we're just on the side of the pool, a lot of it. And then when we did the underwater part, I don't even, I don't think that's Peter Burkrot's behind. I'm pretty sure that was somebody else's naked behind in the water. And so they did have a stand-in for me who had the same swimsuit on and everything. So I can't tell you that, that for us wasn't as big of a thing probably as it was for our stand-ins who did that underwater naked scene. Um, what was really fun is how much the caddies practiced that uh, synchronized swimming bit.
Oh,
Oh
gee,
my
I
God,
like that.
they practiced it constantly. So you could always go down in the pool and there was the guys practicing because they wanted to make it perfect. So they just had a ball doing that. And then of course the girl topless, right? And then the woman, oh again, you get them out of the pool, everyone out of the pool, out. She was wonderful.
Lacey!
Yeah, yeah.
Like she feels guilty at all.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely not. Oh, you're right. Not at all. No guilt.
What I love about Caddyshack is that, it just feels like every time I watch it, it feels like I can get lost in it and feel like I'm going along with Danny Noonan, the Michael O'Keefe character,
Yeah,
all the way. Like I love it when it starts in the morning. He's got this big house full of all
yeah,
these
yeah,
kids, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and he's going there, and Bushwood Country Club. I love the look of the movie. I love the location.
mhm,
I love all of that, and I can just get lost with the characters and feel
yeah,
like I'm right there observing all
yeah,
these interesting because Harold Ramis shot that so well that you feel like these are real people plus a gopher thrown in for good measure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I said, that was added way at the end, so we weren't really as privy to that.
Were
But of course, the opening scenes with Michael O'Keefe were again based on the Murray brothers because they
I
came from
bet.
that big family. Yeah, they came from that big family. And originally, the film was even going to center more around Michael O'Keefe.
I know,
It-
yeah.
yeah, and it switched because Rodney, as the nouveau riche in the club, against the old established wealth, was so dynamic on screen that they kind of they changed the story a little bit. Originally they were going to have Bob Dylan's song "You've Got to Serve Somebody," as kind of the theme song in the beginning. And they didn't. They changed that, and the opening song is it's different. But I thought it was much more about, those who serve the upper class, like the difference between the server and the servee. And it became instead more about the nouveau riche against the established wealth.
Oh
And
yeah. Well, Kenny Loggins' song, I'm all right.
yeah,
That became every time you hear that you think of Caddyshack.
yeah,
Were you there? Were you there when they blew up the golf course?
and no,
Hmm? Mm.
no, I don't think so. First of all, don't forget, uh, you have to be far away from something like that because there is a danger, and they want to make sure that nobody gets hurt. But I was on that film for 6.5 weeks. So
Hmm.
we saw pretty much everything. I know, for example, that the guy they pulled in to be with Rodney Dangerfield, that doctor, the Japanese, or
Yep.
yep, he was just a guy. He was just a doctor. He was an
Mr.
actor.
Wang.
Mr. Wang. And when they go in and he tries on that hat and he's got the price tags hanging down, oh my
Hmm.
God, hysterical. That is hysterical. And Rodney definitely was riffing in that part. Looks
Oh, I
good.
love that.
Yeah.
This is the worst looking hat I've ever seen. I bet you wear a hat like this, you get a free bowl of soup. And he looks at Ted Knight and goes, "Well, it looks good on you, though."
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my God. I mean, see, that's why my son and his friends know every line from that.
Oh,
And of
same
course,
here.
they loved Smales and him, going around and drinking all the leftover drinks at the party, and some had a cigarette butts in them and things like that. Yeah, that's Smales's grandson, right? Which
Pukes
is,
in the top of that limousine.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, we never mentioned Dr. Beeper, too. I forget the comedian that
Oh,
played him.
yes.
Yeah.
Dan. Oh,
Yep, Dan. Yep. Yeah, he was in a big hurry to get back to work.
oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's so gross. Yeah, I mean, it's so fun. That is so funny. But if you go back and look at Animal House, that too is just a perfectly constructed movie, I think, and kind of changed the whole genre of comedy. And in fact, I was hired and was worked as a writer on a female Animal House for
Mhm.
Ryan Pictures for a while. It never came out, but we were doing kind of a female version of it. And I studied that film a lot, and I'm a great admirer of Animal House and how well it's constructed. You definitely know who the cool guys are and the uncool guys are in almost the very first scene.
Mhm.
It's set up so perfectly.
Did you see Caddyshack too? And if you did, what'd you think?
I didn't see it. And yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot wrong with it.
yeah, yeah. I'm not a huge movie goer, I have to admit. Because when I had two young children, I just didn't have the time to go out.
Mm. Well, I was looking through your filmography and I noticed, and I hadn't seen these, but I noticed you worked with Carol Burnett a couple times.
Yes, I was with, yes, you're absolutely right, twice.
Hmm.
The first one was a wedding, which
Hmm.
I shot in Chicago. Robert Altman directed both of these films. He actually cast me in 3 films.
How interesting was he to work with?
Oh, oh, well, the man, yeah, when he looked at you, it was a little unnerving. When he would look at me, I literally felt like he was looking right into me, into my soul. It was,
Hmm.
so that was kind of unnerving. He saw me in a way that maybe other people didn't. So that was I'm a great admirer of his, and he
Hmm.
always made all of his actors feel like they were part of a big fun family on the set. You really did get spoiled by being with him. But Carol Burnett, yeah, I was with her during a wedding, and that was just a ball to shoot. All of us ladies, all of us shared one dressing room where Carol probably got her dress on in a different room, but literally I was sharing with Lauren Bacall and no, not Lauren Bacall. Lauren came into health. Sorry, Lauren Hutton, and some other people. I mean, we were all in these gigantic rooms of a house together. So we all got made up, got our hair, makeup almost in the same room. So you got to know each other pretty well. So that when I went down and did health, Carol was also in that movie. Obviously, it was the second movie I did with her. I knew her pretty well. But on that movie, she was a little, she was distracted. There were some problems, I think, with one of her daughters. One of her daughters was having, was struggling, I believe, with a drug problem. And she had just found it out. And Carol was very, very upset about it. So on that movie, which was Health, she was distracted. But on a wedding, that wasn't the case. And, you know, who couldn't, you know, there was Pat McCormick, there was Paul Dooley, there was Mia Farrow, there was Geraldine Chaplin, there was Dina Merrill. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And we were just all in these big scenes together. So you got to just sit around and chat with all these people. Altman was very big on not making stars and other people feel like they were just supporting players. You all were in it together. He was very big on that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And of course, you were in Troop Beverly Hills with Shelley Long.
Well, Shelley
Yeah.
Long and I are college roommates, and she's still one of my best friends.
Oh, I
That
remember her back as far as Caveman.
Yes, Caveman, right? A Night Shift with
Yep.
Michael Keaton and
Yeah.
yeah, and Henry Winkler. Right.
How is she doing now? I haven't seen her in a while.
She's doing well. She's doing well.
Okay.
Shelley and I not only went to college together and we're college roommates, but our birthdays are 1 week apart. And yeah, she lives about 35 minutes from me. I don't see her often because we're just kind of doing different things, but yeah, she's doing well. She's at an age now where she doesn't have to act anymore. She does every once in a while, but I don't think she has in the last year. I think COVID, don't forget, COVID changed a lot of things. For a while, there was no shooting. For about a year,
Yeah.
there was hardly any shooting, right? And
Oh,
then,
yeah.
yeah. But before that, she did a couple movies for Hallmark and Lifetime. Yeah. And
Yeah,
if you take a
no,
look at her, what was the movie I'm thinking of that she did? Oh, Shelley is a very, very good actress. A
yeah.
very good actress. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really.
I've got Caveman here on Blu-ray. I had Carl
Oh, did
Gottlieb. Yeah, I've had Carl Gottlieb on here, and Carl, of
oh
course, was involved with Jaws and The Jerk. I love
yes.
The Jerk, and I love
Oh, isn't The
Jaws.
Jerk? Oh, you could not make that movie today.
Nope.
Nope, couldn't do it.
But Carl was so happy to talk about Caveman because he rarely gets to talk about it, and I had all
Oh, okay.
kinds of questions about that movie, you
Oh,
know. Yep.
yeah.
But
I remember
but
when
done.
Shelley.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
you got a couple other films I want to mention here. Minority Report, I saw in theaters. Great film, Spielberg.
It is a good film. I think it's
Yeah.
a really good film.
Yep.
Philip Dick had the script and wrote the script, or it was based on a story, I should say, by Philip Dick. Sorry.
Hmm.
Um, and that was an interesting story as an actress, okay? Because I got the call from my agent that I was going to be auditioning, and this is in the olden days where you went into a casting director's office and you read it there, and she said it was 2 scenes, and I got there and looked at the script, or maybe I got to see it beforehand, and it was 2 lines only. The whole thing was 2 lines, and yet I was told it was 2 scenes. So I really studied it and really figured out that it was these 2 completely different scenes. One were the dream verifiers, because that's what we are, psychiatrists or dream verifiers. Yes, that's a verified dream. And then later on, when we see that he's in the dream and he goes has to go on the lam because we have seen that he's the one who's going to be committing a murder, right? So those are two very different scenes. I did
Yeah.
yeah, and Tom Cruise was in one studio on the lot at 20th Century Fox, and I was in another studio with the other gentleman who was a dream verifier. And we had earbuds in, and we were each looking at our own video cameras. So they had one camera on Tom Cruise in another studio. We were being fed his lines through our ears, and we were being filmed by our own camera and supposedly looking at a film that we were verifying the dream of. And unfortunately, the gentleman with me was having problems with feedback for his hearing aids with these earbuds in his ears, and they just couldn't seem to cue him visually right. I don't know why that was. So I got to say really more one of his lines. They switched it to me, and I felt badly for him, but he just couldn't hear what they were cueing him to say. So that was for those two lines, it ended up being 2 weeks of shooting, because one line was the first week and then the other line was the second week. And that's a lot of money because they have to pay you. Your residuals are based on your weekly salary. So we actually got 2 weeks of work out of it. Plus, Steven Spielberg feeds people and his crew better than anybody I've ever seen. There was a sushi chef. There was a choice of, just about any food you could want. And there would be a special chef there every day doing some kind of specialty dish. You ate so well on his films. Yeah. You ate like a king on his films.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Spielberg, one of the biggest name directors ever, what an impressive career he's had. And Minority Report, great movie.
Well, and I want to tell you just a small thing. The first day I was on the set,
Hmm.
I was in the makeup trailer, and I was talking to the makeup person, and Tom Cruise came in behind me and massaged my shoulders for a while. I thought that was awfully nice as a nice greeting. I said, hello, nice, nice to meet you. And then after a while, he sat down in the next chair, and he likes to have kind of loud music on when he's in the makeup trailer. He doesn't want, I think he wants kind of to blot out the chatter and just get him into the frame of mind that he needed to be in. And I said to my makeup artist, I said, what's this music? And I see a hand passing me the CD, and it was Tom Cruise again. And I said, I need to introduce myself. And he said, oh, I know who you are. So I can tell that he had a hand in the casting because he must have seen all of us who auditioned. You know what I mean? Because
Wow.
I had a fairly small part, but he definitely knew who I was without my saying it. He was very nice, by the way,
I've heard good things about him.
and he works so hard. He's very professional. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard good things about him, And I've interviewed Jessica Harper, who had a bit part in this movie as well. Um, and of course, you're listed for Blast from the Past. I saw that in the theater as well.
Oh, isn't that a fun movie? Oh my God. That's another story, which is kind of probably more interesting to an actor than it is to somebody watching the movie. But I was originally supposed to read for the real estate agent in that.
Hmm.
And who is the director on that again? He's somebody I should know.
Just a second, I'll bring it up here.
Yeah, it's somebody I know, a wonderful guy, in fact.
Hugh Wilson, who did
Yeah, Hugh
Police
Wilson.
Academy.
Yeah,
Yep.
who did WKRP in
Yeah.
Cincinnati. Yeah. Anyway, he ended up casting somebody else in the real estate agent, but they asked me if I wanted to be part of the party scene, which was a lesser part. Well, again, ended up being 2 weeks because of a delay in one thing or another. And so I ended up working for 2 weeks and bonding again with the people, that you're in the party scene with. We just had the greatest time on that. And of course, I am such an admirer of Christopher Walken and of Sissy Spacek.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And of course, they were both in those scenes too, because we were supposedly at the party when on the television we see that the Cuban Missile Crisis has happened, and that propels them into the underground, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of television, and I don't want to get into it all uh, one by one, but pick two or three of your television work that are most memorable to you and why.
Well, of course, Private Benjamin is my biggest, because I was in that and as a series. What happened is, let's see, what did I even have any children? Yes, I had one. I had a baby. I had a 6-month-old baby, now that I think of it. And I was auditioning for MASH. And it was a two-part episode of MASH where I was going to play the accordion and sing. You don't know me, but I'm a piano player. I am a singer. And I had played the accordion in a Second City show, so I knew how to play the accordion. Not hard, not easy to find people who play the accordion. So this two-part episode of MASH, I was called back on. Again, 20th Century Fox. This is the days before cell phones, or even maybe some people had pagers, but I happened to be at home, about ready to go to the callback for this two-part episode of MASH. And I got a call from my agent and said, do you think you can be at Warner Brothers? They want to read you for Private Benjamin. And if they like you, you're going to go in front of the network tonight. I said, whoa, okay. I said, yes, I can do that if you can move the callback at for MASH back a little bit, because for me to get from the audition for Private Benjamin to the MASH audition was going to take me time. So they pushed my MASH audition back. I went to the Private Benjamin audition. I thought I'd done quite well. I mean, you get a feeling of that. I went to the MASH audition. Thought I did pretty good on that too. And then I got home. And in those days, you had to go to a payphone. I think I stopped at a payphone on the way home and found I was called back in front of the network that night. So I had to go back. I went out and bought some clothes that I thought were more appropriate for that callback. And then I also found out that night that I got the two-part episode of MASH. But I started work on Private Benjamin the next morning. That means I got the first audition at noon on a Tuesday, the callback that night, and I started work on Wednesday morning on a TV series. And I made a lot of money on that TV series. And to get it overnight like that and had I not been home to receive the phone call, you see, in those days before cell phones, I mean, it was 1980. It might have been early 1981, but I had to turn down the two-part episode of MASH. I couldn't do it because the things overlapped. But so I was part of this TV series, Private Benjamin, and we did 7 episodes. We were hired for 7 episodes. We only shot 5 of them. The network loved them so much. We were in the top 5 every week on TV that they already bought the next 13. We were hired for that. So that ended up being the most lucrative job I ever had. And it was fun. I have to admit, I played my brother in that. I just literally stole my brother's characteristics. And I go like, oh, Benjamin, you think you're so smart. Because my brother used to do that sometimes to me. And so that was, I said that I get the most mail for Friday the 13th, part 6. But while I was doing, I did get a lot of mail when I was doing that show. But I couldn't help but think, what kind of person would be a fan of my character? My character was such a snot. Yeah. But anyway, that
Do you ever get to do the conventions, like the Comic Cons or the horror
I have
conventions?
to be honest, I have been asked to do them
Mhm.
and I just don't do it. I think, did I do one? Um, I I just don't do them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, uh-huh.
I have a blast at them, but yeah, some people don't, some people do.
Well, what I have problems with is charging money for anything like that because I don't need the money. I
Mhm.
guess what I could do is what my friend did. I could just do anything that came into me, give it to a charity. That I could
Mhm.
do. But I feel funny making money off of that. It's just a personal thing of mine. I
Mhm.
just feel funny about. If anybody, by the way, asks me for a picture, I always sign it and I mail it to them. I never would charge for something. It's just me. I'm just not
Oh,
interested
I'd
in that.
love an autograph.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, you got my address, so just send me your address. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. You just, or maybe wait a minute. Maybe I got it already. Do I already have it? Well, I'll look and
I
see.
c
If I don't, just send it to me. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. What's the most unique thing you've ever been asked to sign?
Oh goodness. Oh, well, people even now send me still pictures from Friday the 13th Part 6 and really amazingly deep. Yeah, that's probably impresses me the most that they have stills that they have somehow gotten from that, maybe off the television, off the screen. And I do sign those sometimes. A lot of times they ask me for one of my pictures, but if they ask me to sign something from the movie, I do that too. I,
Okay.
I haven't been asked to sign anybody's ass or anything, if that's what you're talking about. If you want to be the first one, Python, let me know. We'll have to meet in some city halfway in between. But yeah, nothing like so crazy unusual.
I've heard stories about people getting their skin signed and they
Yeah,
get
yeah,
tattooed on themselves
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh,
You
so
got
you asked me, okay, so Private Benjamin would be the one thing.
yeah.
The other thing that I shot at the beginning of 2019, so that was the year before the pandemic, it
Mhm.
was called Millennium Mafia. And I was the cleaner in that, which means the person who cleans up the bodies that the mafia gets rid of. And that
Mhm.
is so unlike me. And she had a French accent also. So I studied a French accent and I did a very detailed background writing of where this character came from and what her background was to get comfortable with this role. Unfortunately, just when it was supposed to air, the the platform that it was going to stream on was went bankrupt and it never got released, even though I did see a small part of it on YouTube in Portuguese. In Portuguese, there you go. Yeah. But that was probably the most interesting role I ever did because I mean, one of the most, because it was so different from me. And, but by doing very strong preparation, which I didn't used to do as much of when I was younger, and I regret that now. My performances would have been better. But now I have techniques that I use to prepare for roles like that. And that was a fun role to play.
Absolutely. Do you have any charities that you're involved with or support that you wanna plug on here?
Oh, well, you're so sweet.
Mm.
Well, um, I think I'd rather not say some of my charities because they might be controversial to some of your listeners.
You mean like
Um,
the paintball one? Oh, come on, Whitney nee
yeah, there's a lot of paintballers who can't afford the balls, and I like to support them. No, a
Or
lot, you know
the
what? a lot of times I support my friends, my friends are fundraising for something else. So I support breast cancer. I support
Mhm.
um, refugees. I'm big on helping. Oh, right now my heart just goes out to these refugees. I mean, I can't even imagine living in a camp in Syria or something, right? I mean, so I have several charities that I help support.
Yeah.
Not in a huge way because I have a lot of friends who need help individually. And if they need help, I want to be able to give them money. I want to be able to help them. Charity begins at home. So I do have a fairly wide circle of people that I help. you know,
But
there
me
you go.
right back as Roy needed help.
Roy, wait a minute, is
That
that
was
the
his character that he
oh
played, Roy.
okay.
I can't believe he didn't become an action star after that, you know?
That's so funny. That's so funny. Or at least a bobblehead. It would be.
Yeah, he'd make a good bobblehead.
Yeah, he would. Well, I
You
think
still yeah?
have we not, I think we've done are we yeah?
Yep. No, I was
Yeah.
gonna say if you had did you still have the costume you have, or did you have to give that back
You mean from
from Jason
oh
Lives?
yeah, you know what? I think did I ask for the head? I might have asked for the model of the head, or but no, they keep them because they keep them.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, you don't get to keep.
Well,
I did, for example, in Troop Beverly Hills, I
uh
did buy all of my wardrobe at the end of the movie. They sold it all to me for half price. And that wardrobe was so spectacular that even though I ended up it was equal to my salary to buy that wardrobe, but it was worth it. And don't forget, I get residuals on some of those things too. So it's, I did make some money on it, but yeah. Most of the time, no, you don't get to keep your wardrobe.
Well, you know what, Anne? It was such an honor to have you come on here today and talk to me about Jason Lives and Caddyshack and other films that you were involved in. And what a blast, you know. And before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show,
For your what?
for my podcast? You mind doing
Oh,
a
for your
plug?
podcast. I thought you
Yeah.
said for your Joe. And I thought, wait a minute, do you have coffee or something that you were selling? I wasn't sure.
No, no, no.
No, what? And
Just just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
okay, wait, but I'm gonna write that so I don't. Okay, okay, all right, I got
Go
it.
for it.
Hi, I'm Ann Ryerson, and you are listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Yes, check out Anne and Jason Lives as the champion paintballer, you know, because that headband is hers.
We are the champions. We
And of course,
are the champions of
there
the
you
world.
go. Check her out in Caddyshack, you know, as she is now like the spokesperson for Babe Ruth bars. Check her out in Minority Report and a variety of other films, you know, and TV. And thank you so much for allowing me the honor to have you on the show today.
Well, it was my pleasure, and you have a good rest of your afternoon. And now I'm going to get on with my morning. It's morning
Absolutely.
here. Yeah, all
Well,
right.
yeah, I know you gotta go pay, you gotta go find Roy and do some paintballing.
I'm going to have some coffee. All right. Bye, sweetheart. Thank you for calling me. All right.
Bye
Bye.
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 Yep.
Bye.
Yep.